Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books. Let's get started.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into Murder at Gulls Nest by Jess Kidd.
Right, we're going to unravel the story chronologically, hitting the key moments and surprising twists as Nora Breen arrives at the seemingly peaceful Gulls Nest.
Peaceful is definitely not the word I'd end up using.
No. She finds herself caught in quite a tangle of secrets, disappearances, and, well, death.
So the scene is set. It's October. The summer season's over.
Gives it that desolate feel, doesn't it? The seaside promenade.
Exactly. And Gulls Nest itself, it's described as a collection of senile villas, a bit past their prime.
That atmosphere, that sort of fading glory, really sets the tone for everything that follows.
It really does. And Nora, right from the start, she's intriguing. That puce coat she wears.
Yeah, quite vivid.
Very vivid, especially against her background of more muted colors. It suggests a deliberate change, maybe. And you immediately notice her keen eye for small details.
A trait that becomes absolutely crucial later on.
Definitely. So she meets Mrs. Helena Wells, the owner, and her daughter Dinah, who is nonverbal. And straight away, there's this hint of something. Tough. They mention a previous female guest who left suddenly, end of August.
Right, the timing seems important. And Nora herself, she has her own reasons for being there, though we don't know them yet. Adds another layer of mystery.
And we meet Irene, the housekeeper. Seems quite strict, particularly about Dinah.
Yeah, definite rules there.
Yeah.
Then, as Nora's settling in, we see a few others. There's a couple on the beach.
The Atkins, Stella, and Teddy, they look unhappy.
Yeah, the man seems bitter, the woman weary. And then there's that small man.
Oh yeah, in the way too big army greatcoat with a camera. Quite the collection of characters right off the bat.
These initial encounters are really key, aren't they? Setting up how everyone's connected, even if you don't see it yet.
Absolutely. And then that interaction between Nora and Dinah, it's quite unsettling.
It is strange. Dinah grabs her hand, does these sort of theatrical movements, then seems genuinely scared of Nora being in the room, runs off downstairs.
And the detail that really sticks, Nora notices an army greatcoat hanging behind Dinah's door.
Whose coat is that? Why is it there? You're already asking questions.
That greatcoat feels like a really significant early clue, something to file away.
Okay, so the narrative moves to the dining room. First, proper meeting with the other residents. Over-braised liver, no less.
Doesn't sound too appealing, but we meet Stella and Teddy Atkins properly, the couple from the beach.
And Mr. Bill Carter. Very smartly dressed, warm Kent accent. Seems quite commercially minded.
Definitely. And Professor Poppy, the older gentleman, seems a bit lost in his own world.
The whole vibe at that table is just awkward. You can feel it.
Yeah, Nora even notes she feels outnumbered. She's the outsider.
And Stella makes that slightly sharp comment about Teddy being a caretaker at the amusement park.
A little dig, maybe. Then Professor Poppy drops that cryptic remark about the absent last guest.
Which, of course, ties right back to Nora's room and the woman who left suddenly in August.
And when Nora tries to ask about her, the professor just cuts her off, abruptly.
Right before the final guest arrives. The timing feels deliberate, like they don't want to talk about it.
Definitely suggests it's a sensitive topic.
So then we shift inside Nora's head a bit. She's clearly disappointed with Gulls Nest. It's not the elegant place she imagined for her friend, Frieda Brogan.
And this is crucial why Nora's there. She's looking for Frieda.
Right. Frieda left her religious order 8 months ago, started writing weekly letters.
Very reliably.
And then, end of August, the letters just stopped. Dead.
And Mother Superior, back at the order, dismissed Nora's concerns, brushed them off.
But Nora knows Frieda. She knows her friend's reliability. That's what gives her that strong intuition, that gut feeling something is seriously wrong.
That conviction really drives her initial search. She wouldn't just stop writing.
Okay, so after that tense dinner, Nora talks with Bill Carter outside. She kind of puts on a front.
Pretends she's just there for the sea air, right?
Yeah. And Bill, he's talking about his long history with Gore-on-Sea, how standards have slipped.
Oh, he's the businessman. Mentions his knack for helping people find what they are seeking, sees an angle everywhere.
But here's where it gets really interesting for Nora's search. Bill mentions seeing Frieda going out very late the night she vanished.
Which was totally out of character for her.
Completely. He even spoke to her, and she said she'd see him at breakfast. That blows any idea of a planned departure out of the water.
Totally. And Nora, already picking up on things, asks about a missing post tray.
Bill describes Frieda as, agreeable. Not the type to just leave, but then...
He hesitates when Nora asks if Frieda had local friends.
That hesitation, it speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe Frieda wasn't really connected there.
Raises a big red flag for Nora, for sure. After that chat, she walks on the shore and we get a sense of her thoughts swirling. Life is very different from Hydallo.
Then she talks with Stella.
Stella says she liked Frieda, would have gotten closer if she wasn't so busy with Teddy and work. Nora notes her openness, seems genuine at this stage.
It does. But Frieda's disappearance is really eating at Nora. She decides she needs to involve the police.
So off she goes to the station, memorably, without her shoes.
Yeah. Yes. It really says something about her state of mind, maybe. A
Oh,
bit impulsive, detached.
could be. She hits the usual wall with a dismissive desk officer
The
first.
classic bureaucratic hurdle. But then she gets to speak with Inspector Rideout. Apparently, he has quite a handsome voice.
So the book says, and Nora uses her persuasive skills, convinces him looking for Frieda is worth his time.
He agrees to log her as a missing person. It's a small step, but it's official.
So Nora returns to Gulls Nest, talks to Rose, the young kitchen help.
And Rose makes it clear finding anything terrible isn't in her job description, almost like she expects something.
Foreshadowing, perhaps. And speaking of terrible findings, when Nora mentions the phrase, Professor Poppy reacts, looks at her pleadingly.
Which prompts Nora to go check the workshop. And there, she finds Teddy's body.
Ugh. The description of that scene is chillingly precise. Teddy alone, the oil lamp.
That saucer, cup, spoon, all laid out so deliberately. And the smell.
Coffee mixed with bitter almonds. From the cup, cyanide.
No mistaking that. But the rest of the workshop is strangely tidy, isn't it? Workbench clean, art supplies neat, finished puppets hanging there.
It's a really unsettling contrast. The apparent suicide versus the orderliness.
Rose runs off to get the doctor. Poppy is clearly distraught, mentions finding Stella.
Nora comforts him, and Poppy offers a crucial insight, doesn't he? He says Teddy didn't die naturally, suspects he took something.
Right, he brings up Teddy's struggles after the war, his insomnia.
Suggesting maybe it wasn't entirely unexpected, although Stella later mentions their plans to make the workshop more accessible for him, which implies care.
When Rideout arrives, his immediate thought is cyanide. Meanwhile, Helena's panicking because Dinah's vanished again.
And she uses that silver whistle to call her. Quite unique.
And where is Dinah found? In perhaps the most bizarre hiding place.
Trapped inside the sideboard. It's almost darkly comic amidst the tragedy.
So while they're reeling from Teddy's death, you have this absurd little side drama with Dinah.
The evening after is understandably very subdued. Poppy dozing, Rose listening in, Helena with a headache.
Dinah hiding behind the curtains. Classic Dinah.
Poppy just asking for tea, and his grim comment about supper really captures the mood. And then you hear Helena sobbing from the dining room. The grief is palpable.
Rideout starts questioning Stella. Debts, gambling, recent changes, arguments.
But Stella insists there was nothing like that. Teddy was her only family, and she's certain it was poison.
She even says a policeman told her it was poison. Seems like a slip-up by someone.
Possibly. Stella recounts Teddy's routine doing odd jobs for Poppy in the workshop before breakfast. Gives her timeline for the morning.
Seeing Nora, getting Poppy's warm milk ready. Rose commenting on birds liking the milk.
Rose going out, coming back in. Stella remembers hearing the back door go, assumed it was Rose.
And Nora makes a key spatial observation here. Poppy's room is right above the kitchen and pantry.
Important detail. After some hesitation, Stella lets Nora take her to her room. Her last words to Rideout are telling.
It was an accident. Teddy would never have left me by choice. She firmly believes in their bond, or wants to.
Later, at a very grim supper, there's a toast to Teddy. Poppy notes Rideout was thorough, tactful.
And then Poppy offers that weird theory about Dinah hiding in the sideboard on purpose.
Calls her a miniature Houdini, suggests she can pick locks, even bills. It's unexpected. Almost lightens the mood, strangely.
The next morning, Nora wakes up feeling ill, like symptoms from before her time in the order.
And Father Conway, the gull, pays a visit to her window, always popping up that gull.
She reflects on her past, dream interpretations at High Dallow, her own detective story dreams.
And she starts to wonder, could Teddy have willingly taken poison? Maybe to help someone.
She also questions why Mr. Zizek's sudden departure wasn't looked into more, especially given what Stella said about tension between him and Teddy.
Nora dwells on Frieda breaking her promise to write, and Stella's certainty Teddy wouldn't leave her, despite her own suspicions.
Rideout seems ready to close the book on Teddy. Suicide.
But Nora zeroes in on the lack of a suicide note, a glaring omission.
It fuels her belief there's more to it. She then talks to Rose again about Mrs. Rawlings and Dinah.
Rose describes Dinah as mischievous, a bit of a thief.
And interestingly, Rose also doubts the suicide theory. Says something like, there are easier ways to top yourself, aren't there?
Rose also remembers the breakfast setup that morning, noting Mrs. Rawlings left very early. Another piece potentially fitting somewhere.
It's around now. Nora realizes her recent purchases aren't just random. The sugar mice for Dinah, the smoking stuff, the notebook.
They have a purpose. She's shifting from observer to investigator.
Her first notebook entry is blunt. Murder weapon, cyanide, possible sources.
And she starts exploring the grounds properly. Privy, moldering gazebo.
Finds Rose's hideout there, paperbacks, cigarette ends. Then that awkward chat with Irene by the bleeding window, the red algae.
Irene offers tea, mentions gassing weeds, maybe planting a seed in Nora's mind, and pointedly asks if Nora's working with the inspector.
Irene's clearly aware of the undercurrents. This conversation seems to push Nora towards investigating potential sources of poison.
Which leads her to the attic, to Carol Juszek's room. She's determined now, despite Irene's disapproval, especially since Frieda's handkerchief was found on Teddy.
She hesitates, remembering Stella suspected Carol.
Inside, it's like he just walked out. Those weird blue photos are there. She finds a well-used darkroom manual, notes in English in the margins, meticulous notes.
Then she goes into the attached makeshift darkroom. It's been ransacked. Chemical smell, busted film spool.
Whatever chemicals and equipment were listed in the manual, they're gone now. But she spots it, a proud floorboard under the rug.
And just as she's lifting it, she realizes she's being watched.
By Dinah, dressed, of all things, in a bunny costume.
Dinah then does this exaggerated search of Nora's room before pushing the notebook at her. And inside, Dinah's written, "Who killed Teddy?"
A huge moment, Dinah directly acknowledging it might be murder.
Through more notes, Dinah confirms Teddy's death shocked her. Mentions the police being there, but the inspector talking about rabbits, not Teddy.
And her childlike view. The inspector and Teddy didn't like kids, but Stella gives presents. Simple, but maybe insightful about dynamics.
Nora checks on Stella again. She's still distraught, absolutely adamant Teddy wouldn't kill himself. No reason to.
Her bitter comment, Teddy's murderer has gotten away with it, shows her own conviction.
Stella had mentioned bad blood between Teddy and Carol Juszek, because Carol was interested in her. She gets very agitated if Nora even hints Teddy might have doubted the baby's paternity.
Very sensitive ground. Stella then tells the story of meeting Teddy during the war, Piccadilly Circus, whirlwind romance. Shows the depth of what she feels she's lost.
Nora follows another lead Hosmer's photographic studio. Old-fashioned place.
Meets Mr. Hosmer, the friendly owner. Nora pretends she wants a portrait.
Hosmer comments on Nora having many faces, remembers the beret photo. Shows her the standard portrait albums.
Then pulls out a different folder. Stark black and white shots. More revealing.
And Nora sees Frieda in them. It's a shock. Feels like she didn't know this side of her friend at all.
Hosmer confirms Carol Juszek took them. Says Carol claimed to be from Prague, but Hosmer doubts it, says he doesn't speak Czech.
Kept him on because he was a great photographer. Obsessive maybe, arrived early that year. But Hosmer's cagey about where Carol is now. Others have been asking.
Hosmer shows Nora more of Carol's artistic stuff. Suggests a classic portrait for Nora, gold brocade.
And then drops a lovely little detail. Frieda spoke of Nora. Called her formidable but fun.
A sweet moment. Finally, Hosmer gives Nora Frieda's last known address, a room over the Marine Hotel pub.
So Nora goes there, finds the room is pretty tired, downstairs in the bar.
Bill Carter, working a lunchtime shift, offers her a marine mermaid.
Bill notes Nora looks dreadfully well, despite Irene's cooking. Bit of backhanded compliment there.
He also reveals Poppy told Nora about his crush on Helena. Gossip travels fast.
When Nora asks Bill point blank what he thinks happened to Teddy, Bill admits Teddy was tortured and makes that odd comment about more spam at breakfast that morning. Weird detail.
Then Nora sees this flash of pure hatred on Bill's face when a couple enters the bar. Young, disheveled girl, older, lecherous man. Hints at dark stuff in the town.
Right out questions Nora again. Focuses on the handkerchief found on Teddy, linking the cases.
Nora corrects him. It wasn't necessarily murder, Mrs. Rawlings explained the mixed laundry.
Then Nora turns it back on him, asks what he knows about Percy Ladd, pushing her own investigation for her.
We then see Helena's bizarre morning ritual, the blinds, the barefoot terrace appearance, gulping air, silent scream, hair pulling, then reappearing later perfectly composed.
Clear signs of deep distress hidden beneath the surface. Nora intercepts her in the garden.
Helena talks about Dinah being difficult, mentions that awful incident where she nearly drowned another child.
And then Helena reveals she knows Nora knew Frieda before, noticed her manner, her hair.
Nora admits she kept quiet about it. Helena wonders why truant officers haven't caught up with Dinah, acknowledges Frieda's mystery, then Teddy's death.
And she reacts strongly when Nora suggests Teddy's death wasn't suicide. The thought of a killer among them clearly disturbs her deeply.
Nora reviews her notebook crossed out thoughts about God, observations on Poppy's closeness to Teddy, his declining health, and then Poppy makes that rather moving request.
Asks Nora to look out for Dinah if he dies mysteriously. Shows how much he cared for her.
Later, Nora talks to Stella, who kind of brushes off Poppy's concern for her, says he meant for Nora to look after Dinah, his protege, calls Dinah sweet with Poppy.
Then there's that tiny detail Irene recalls. Serving Stella toast, watching her eat it with this slight, almost victorious smile.
It sticks with Nora. She even has that fleeting thought, could Irene be the housekeeper from Poppy's own thriller novel, Life Imitating Art?
Nora decides to follow Irene on her day off, finds she goes to a country estate, which is actually a hospital. Nora slips in disguised as a nurse.
Sees Irene in a private room with a young man, severe facial injuries. They make eye contact briefly. Nora sees deep sadness in Irene.
An orderly tells her Irene visits weekly. It's her son George, injured in the war.
Nora tries talking to George. Irene returns, offers mints, reveals she has a solid alibi for Teddy's death. Nora wasn't top of her suspect list anyway.
Mentions giving Poppy his own book.
She gives a genuine smile, a glimpse of her past self, but reacts sharply when Nora shows sympathy for George. Complex emotions there.
Irene then drops some bombshells. Helena had a husband in London, an eminent doctor, and Dinah is her granddaughter, not her daughter.
Wow. Finally, Irene offers to show Nora Frieda's belongings. Things seem to be moving.
But then Stella wakes Nora frantically. Professor Poppy is dead in his bed, and his little dog Toby, too.
Oh no, the remaining residents gather again. Shock, grief. Nora notes Carol Zizek is still missing. Adds to the unease.
Nora searches Carol's room, finds the greatcoat again, and then a crucial photograph. Younger Teddy and Carol, with Cudfan written on the back. Names Theo and John. They knew each other before Gulls Nest. This changes things. Nora figures Cudfan might be a place. Calls the Carmelite Monastery in Dulgelau.
Speaks to Sister Anwin. Learns Cudfan is Welsh for hideaway, probably a house name. A Welsh connection for Carol John.
Next, Nora meets Reverend Audley and his rabbit. Always with the rabbit.
Notes the contrast, his lovely vicarage garden full of rabbits versus the gloom of Gulls Nest. Symbolic, perhaps.
Rideout confirms the official verdict on Frieda. Broken neck from the fall. Impossible to say if it was accidental or deliberate.
But Nora is absolutely certain Frieda would have kept writing. The official story doesn't sit right.
She returns to Gulls Nest, feeling more foreboding than ever. Examines Frieda's purse. Few coins, rouge, marine hotel matches, 3 used.
Rereading Frieda's letters now, Nora senses the danger, the broken promise. Wonders if she could have saved her if she'd come sooner.
Gently berates herself, feeling her age, the strain. Then Bill offers help. Unexpected.
They go to Ladland, the closed amusement park. Melancholy vibe. Meet Stan, an old worker, sympathetic towards Stella.
Spot Percy Ladd's pristine car. Confront Percy. He's aggressive, insulting.
Nora gets in his car anyway. Percy admits Stella sent Frieda to mediate some issue, and he told Teddy, who wasn't happy. Claims he doesn't know where he was the night Frieda disappeared. Mention of a police complaint about his speeding.
Then Helena calls a meeting for a seance. Bill gets the night off. Stella's curious. Irene is grumpy.
Helena's dramatic announcement, too many losses, need a different way, psychic energy. Introduces Miss Dents, the medium.
Miss Dents sets the rules. No breaking the circle, questions at set times, no outbursts. Irene locks the door, lights candles, kills the main light. Spooky.
Miss Dents explains the goal. Find answers, help the dead find rest. Warns it's imprecise. Seance begins. Darkness, held hands, weird smells, icy draft.
Nora has a vivid flashback flames from her past life as a nun, maybe. The draft returns, candle goes out. Pitch black. Intense.
Afterwards, Stella found it unsettling, insensitive, wants to let it go.
But Nora disagrees. Need clues, evidence, not feelings.
Nora tackles the police station again, finally gets Rideout, who's clearly tired of her.
Rideout confirms Frieda's death ruled accidental. Poppy's cause of death still pending. Mentions Frieda's missing letter Bill saw. Tells Nora, again, to leave Gulls Nest.
Rideout himself seems fed up with Gore-on-Sea, his arms in a sling, an accident at Ladland. Carol Zizek is awake, but won't talk about the assault. Percy Ladd admitted taking him to the infirmary. Rideout's exasperated with Nora playing detective.
Nora visits Harry Ladd at Ladland. Harry casually dismisses Poppy's death choked on his puppet Swazzle, he suggests.
Boasts about building Ladlin, knowing everything. Says he'd turn Percy in if he were guilty, but doubts he's capable. Finds Percy taking Carol to hospital out of character.
Back at Gulls Nest, changes are afoot. Deliveries for a special dinner. Nora hears Bill flirting. Finds him with Helena.
Bill happily confirms their romance sparked during the seance. Says Irene's been acting funny since they got together.
Dinah has a new pram from Bill. Filled with rocks, not a doll. Nora lures her downstairs with Madeline's.
Dinah brings the pram. It's lighter now, humped shape under the quilt. Then Dinah reveals she cut up Frieda's letters for snowflakes. Confirms she gets into every room.
When Nora asks about the last letter from Frieda in the post tray, Dinah shakes her head slyly. Shows Nora her notebook, a drawing of Irene.
Nora and Irene discuss the drawing. Irene accepts Dinah's oddness, mentions Poppy kept lots of brandy in the workshop, shares her own backstory work. George being dismissed, Helena being her daughter-in-law who didn't marry George because of her London husband.
Irene decides to leave Gulls Nest because of Bill and Helena. Suggests Nora check Poppy's brandy stash. Nora follows this lead, finally meets Carol Jacek, now identified as John Morgan. He looks like he's in pain.
John regrets his inaction about Frieda, was too wrapped up in his own issues. Confirms he returned from the headland around 10 p.m. that night. Frieda had no plans to go out again. Knows who assaulted him wasn't Percy Ladd. Mentions guilt over the war. Salutes Rideout as he approaches.
Nora and Rideout walk on the promenade. Discuss Frieda's official death, finding broken neck from the fall. Nora gets ready for Bill's dinner, new dress, senses a storm brewing, literally and figuratively. Stella finds the Jack Ketch puppet in her bed, terrified.
Nora realizes everyone was accounted for during dinner who planted the puppet. Then finds blood-stained rags by Stella's fireplace. Suspects the pregnancy wasn't real or there was an undisclosed miscarriage. Nora hides the puppet. Rose reveals the stones used to weigh down milk bottles were missing the morning Teddy died.
It all clicks for Nora. Stella took the stones to weigh down Dinah's pram, containing Frieda's body, before pushing it off the cliff. Nora climbs the rope ladder to Dinah's cliffside hideaway, finds Dinah and Stella having a tea party there.
Nora understands. Dinah saw Stella take the poisoned coffee to Teddy, found his body, tidied the scene, took the puppet to communicate what happened. Just then, Rideout arrives. He knew about the hideaway. The notebook was his, from the war. Suggests Nora write down her own story.
Rideout and Nora plan one last walk on the beach before her train. They walk along the promenade, wind at their backs. The secrets of Gulls Nest finally exposed.
Phew, what a story. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into murder at Gulls Nest. We hope you found tracking the events chronologically as captivating and insightful as we did, seeing how it all connected.
Yeah, the intricate plot, those memorable, if definitely troubled characters, they all wove this incredible tapestry of secrets and suspense.
What stood out most to you as we went through it step by step? Any lingering questions about the residents, their motives?
This deep dive, as always, just scratches the surface, doesn't it? We really encourage you to pick up Murder at Gulls Nest and experience the full, twisty story for yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge, spread the word.